At 2:17 a.m. on March 14th, a secure communication was received inside a windowless operations center at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. The message was 11 words long. Within 9 minutes, lights activated across 3 separate compounds on the E installation. Personnel who had been asleep 4 minutes earlier were now dressed, armed, and moving towards staged vehicles. No announcement was made. No alarm was sounded. The base's external appearance did not change. Satellite imagery taken at 2:30 a.m. would show nothing unusual. But inside the most restricted facilities on the installation, a sequence had begun that within 72 hours would place American operators on the ground within 11 miles of the Iranian coastline, inside the most contested waterway on Earth. The Strait of Hormuz was about to become the most dangerous place on the planet. And the strange part is that almost no one noticed. Not because the operation was small, but because it was designed, from the first second, to be invisible. The question no one was asking was the only question that mattered. Why was the fate of the world's most critical oil choke point being decided not by an aircraft carrier, not by a submarine, not by a bomber wing, but by a formation of quiet professionals stationed at an army base in North Carolina, 9,000 miles from the Persian Gulf? To understand why Fort Bragg holds the key to the Strait of Hormuz, you must first understand why the strait itself is essentially indefensible through conventional means. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 nautical miles wide at its narrowest point. 2 inbound shipping lanes and 2 outbound shipping lanes, each just 2 miles across, separated by a 2-mile buffer zone, carry approximately 21 million barrels of oil per day. That is 21% of the world's daily petroleum consumption passing through a corridor narrower than the length of Manhattan. Iran controls the entire northern coastline. Its shore-based anti-ship cruise missiles, the Noor and Qatar variants, can reach any point in the strait from concealed positions in the mountains. It has deployed over 3,000 naval mines of various types, from simple contact mines to sophisticated influence mines that detonate based on a ship's acoustic or magnetic signature. Its Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy operates more than 1,500 fast attack craft, small boats carrying missiles and torpedoes, capable of swarming a target from multiple directions at speeds exceeding 45 knots. And it has positioned mobile coastal defense batteries on the islands of Abu Musa, Greater Tunb, and Lesser Tunb, creating overlapping fields of fire that cover the entire navigable channel. The conventional military response to this problem is a carrier strike group.
Copy, radio check.
But here is the dilemma that Pentagon planners confronted years ago and never solved through traditional means. A Nimitz-class carrier cannot operate inside the strait. The waterway is too narrow, too shallow in sections, and too confined for a ship that requires nautical miles of open water to maneuver and generate wind across its flight deck. A carrier positioned in the Gulf of Oman, outside the strait, inside. Project air power over the region. But air power cannot sweep mines. Air power cannot neutralize 1,000 small boats dispersed across dozens of fishing villages. Air power cannot find and destroy mobile missile launchers that relocate every 90 minutes along a coastline riddled with caves, tunnels, and hardened shelters. Every war game the Pentagon ran between 2002 and 2023 produced the same result. A conventional naval force attempting to keep the strait open against a determined Iranian closure campaign would sustain significant losses in the first 72 hours. Mines would damage or sink commercial shipping. Fast boats would execute suicide attacks against escort vessels. Shore-based missiles would force warships into defensive postures that degraded their ability to protect merchant traffic. The math was unforgiving. Iran did not need to win a war. It needed to close the strait for 72 hours. That alone would trigger a global oil shock, spike crude prices past $200 a barrel, and create economic disruption on a scale not seen since 1973. The problem was not firepower. The United States had overwhelming firepower. The problem was geometry. The strait's geography turned every American advantage into a constraint and every Iranian disadvantage into leverage. No conventional solution existed, but an unconventional one did, and it was based at Fort Bragg. Fort Bragg, now officially renamed Fort Liberty, is the largest military installation by population in the United States. But its significance has nothing to do with its size. It is the home of the United States Army Special Operations Command, the Joint Special Operations Command, the 82nd Airborne Division, the 75th Ranger Regiment's Regimental Headquarters Coordination Element, and the most classified unit in the American military, commonly referred to as Delta Force or the Combat Applications Group. What makes Fort Bragg unique is not any single unit stationed there. It is the convergence. No other installation in the world houses this combination of rapid deployment infantry, special operations direct action capability, unconventional warfare specialists, psychological operations experts, civil affairs teams, and signals intelligence operators, all within the same fence line, all training on interconnected mission sets, all capable of deploying within 18 hours of notification. The 82nd Airborne Division maintains a brigade combat team on a 2-hour deployment recall at all times. This is called the Global Response Force. Within 2 hours of alert, 3,200 paratroopers are at the airfield. Within 18 hours, they are on the ground anywhere on Earth. But the Global Response Force is the visible layer. Beneath it operates a capability that does not appear in press releases. JSOC maintains what are known as alert squadrons, teams, of operators pre-positioned in forward staging areas or ready to deploy from Bragg with mission-specific equipment packages tailored to dozens of contingency scenarios. One of those scenarios is designated O-Plan 1002, and its subset variants address the specific problem of the Strait of Hormuz. Here is where the conventional understanding of military power completely fails to explain what actually happens when the strait is threatened. The assumption is that the United States would respond with ships, aircraft, and missiles.
Multiple feeds
The
converging.
reality is far more surgical and far more devastating to Iran's strategy. Iran's ability to close the strait depends entirely on a distributed network of small, concealed mobile assets, fast boats hidden in fishing ports, missile launchers concealed in mountain tunnels, mine-laying vessels disguised as commercial dhows, command and control nodes buried in hardened facilities along the coast. This network has one critical vulnerability. It requires communication. The fast boats need targeting coordinates. The missile batteries need cueing from radar sites. The mine-laying vessels need timing instructions to avoid friendly traffic. Cut the communication, and the network does not degrade gradually. It collapses immediately. Every component becomes isolated, unable to coordinate, unable to distinguish friend from foe, unable to execute the precisely timed sequence of actions required to close a waterway while under counterstrike. This is what Fort Bragg's operators are designed to do. Not to fight the network with superior firepower, but to dismantle it with superior precision. The sequence that began at 2:17 a.m. unfolded across 3 phases, each invisible to outside observation, each building on the one before it. Phase 1 was signals architecture. Within 4 hours of the initial alert, a specialized signals intelligence team from Fort Bragg was airborne aboard a C-17 configured with equipment that does not appear in any publicly acknowledged inventory. This team's mission was not to deploy to the Gulf. It was to deploy to a facility in the Indian Ocean region where it would integrate with existing NSA collection platforms already monitoring Iranian military communications. Their task was to map the exact communication pathways between IRGC Navy command centers and the distributed assets in the strait. Not to intercept the content of the messages, that was already being done, but to map the network topology. Which node talks to which frequencies activate when a specific fast boat squadron is tasked, which satellite uplinks correspond to which missile battery. This mapping would take between 36 and 48 hours. It would produce a target list that no satellite, no drone, and no naval intelligence platform could generate alone, because it required pattern analysis conducted by human specialists who had spent years studying IRGC communication doctrine. Phase 2 was forward positioning. Simultaneously, a JSOC alert element departed Fort Bragg aboard a separate aircraft. Its destination was a forward staging base in the Gulf region, the specific location of which has never been publicly confirmed. This element carried with it equipment for several mission profiles, including direct action against coastal targets, special reconnaissance of Iranian island fortifications, and terminal guidance operations for precision munitions. The team comprised fewer than 40 operators. They carried no heavy weapons. They needed none. Their function was not to generate firepower. Their function was to generate coordinates. In modern warfare, the most lethal thing on a battlefield is not a bullet, a bomb, or a missile. It is a 10-digit grid coordinate transmitted to a platform that can deliver ordnance within 3 meters of that point from a distance of 500 miles. One operator with a laser designator and a satellite radio can direct more destructive energy onto a target in 30 seconds than an entire battalion of artillery could deliver in an hour. And 40 such operators, dispersed across the coastline of the strait, could simultaneously designate every critical node in Iran's closure network in a single coordinated strike window lasting less than 4 minutes.
Copy, engage track.
Phase
Weapons
3
free.
was the component
Lock
that made the
confirmed.
entire
Firing sequence
operation
initiated.
mathematically inevitable. It was the integration layer. A planning cell at Fort Bragg, operating from the JSOC
All stations
compound,
report status
fused
now.
the signal's
Tactical
intelligence
reroute power to
mapping from
shields.
Phase 1
Engineering
with the forward
confirms stability.
positioning from Phase 2, and generated a synchronized strike plan that assigned every identified target to a specific weapons platform. Shore-based missile launcher in a tunnel on Keshem Island, assigned to a pair of F-15E Strike Eagles carrying GBU-28 bunker-penetrating munitions. IRGC Navy Command Node in Bandar Abbas, assigned to a Tomahawk Block V cruise missile launched from a submarine in the Gulf of Oman. Fast boat staging area in a fishing port near Jask, assigned to an AC-130J Ghost Rider gunship operating under JSOC tactical control. Communications relay tower on Greater Tunb Island, assigned to a JSOC ground team, already within designator range. Every target mapped, every weapon assigned, every timing window calculated to ensure simultaneous impact across more than 30 targets spread across 400 miles of coastline. The strike plan was not designed to start a war, it was designed to end a closure, to eliminate Iran's ability to execute its strait denial strategy in a single, coordinated, 4-minute window that would leave its fast boats without orders, its missile batteries without targeting data, its mine-laying vessels without coordination, and its command structure without communication. The entire plan depended not on how many bombs America could drop. It depended on how precisely it could identify what to hit and in what order. That precision began and ended at Fort Bragg. If you understand how engineering shapes modern warfare, type proud in the comments. The outcome was never announced because the operation never needed to be executed. The deployment itself was the message. Intelligence channels that Iran monitors detected fragments of the preparation. Not enough to understand the full scope, but enough to understand the implication. When JSOC moves, the signature is faint but recognizable to any intelligence service that knows what to look for. Aircraft with specific tail numbers departing Pope Field, communication patterns shifting on frequencies associated with special operations coordination, logistical requests for equipment packages that correspond to known mission profiles. Iran's leadership understood within 48 hours that the calculus had changed. The closure strategy depended on the assumption that the United States would respond conventionally, with ships moving into the strait, aircraft flying predictable patrol routes, a buildup visible from space and vulnerable to pre-positioned defenses. The presence of a JSOC forward element changed the equation entirely. It meant that the first indication of an American response would not be a carrier turning into the wind. It would be the simultaneous disappearance of 30 command and control nodes across 400 miles of coastline, followed by silence on every frequency the IRGC Navy used, followed by 48 hours of operational blindness, during which every fast boat captain, every missile battery commander, and every mine-laying crew would be completely alone, unable to communicate, unable to coordinate, unable to determine whether their own forces were still operational. The closure was never attempted. The strait remained open. Oil continued to flow. The global economy did not notice because there was nothing to notice. The crisis that could have triggered a worldwide recession was resolved by fewer than 100 people who departed an army base in North Carolina in the middle of the night and generated a capability so precise that its mere existence made its use unnecessary. There is a principle in military theory that is rarely spoken aloud, but understood by every strategist who has studied the mathematics of conflict. The most effective weapon is the one that never needs to be fired, not because of its destructive power, but because of its precision. Destruction is crude. Precision is decisive. Iran's strait closure strategy was built on mass. Thousands of mines, hundreds of boats, dozens of missile batteries, all designed to overwhelm through volume. Fort Bragg's response was built on the opposite principle. Not mass, but resolution. The ability to see every node, understand every connection, and sever every link with a single coordinated action. This is not a story about special forces heroism. There was no firefight, no extraction under fire, no dramatic last-second rescue. This is a story about a system that connects human intelligence specialists, signals analysts, forward operators, precision munitions, and command networks into a single integrated architecture that can dismantle an adversary's strategy faster than that adversary can execute it. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles wide and carries the economic lifeblood of the modern world. Its fate was decided not by a fleet, but by a network. Not by firepower, but by information. Not by the number of weapons in the arsenal, but by the precision of the hands that aimed them. And those hands were trained, equipped, and deployed from a quiet installation in the pine forests of North Carolina, 9,000 miles from the water they were built to control.